Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to talk with Amin Nayebpour, who is a geopolitical risk analyst and a PhD in political philosophy, and also a friend of mine from college. We lived down the hall from each other freshman year in 2011. Long time, right, bro?
Yeah, long time ago, man.
So, from Iran, you were born there, right? Or am I wrong?
Yes, I was born there. I did my first bachelor's there, and then I emigrated to Canada, and then to the United States to do my studies, and then eventually working here.
Great. Well, Iran is obviously a huge topic in the news. I find it fascinating. I've always thought of Iran, or I like to say Persia as well, to be a place that is just far below its potential. It could be for a Western comparison, like a Germany or a France of the Middle East. And I'm very, very intrigued and, dare I say, excited about the developments taking place there. And I think a lot of people online are too. And I think you're a great person to bring us some insight. So to kick us off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you see the situation right now? How did this flare up in the past couple weeks? Is it something that well, before I ramble on, why don't you just tell us how this
Sure.
flared up in the past couple of weeks? Where are we standing now?
Sure. So it started exactly two weeks ago,
Mhm.
where the motivation was economic. So what's happening right now is that the Islamic Republic has inflation of around 30%, more or less, for the past 15 years. And they've been able to go around everything, but now actually it's getting much worse. So why is it getting much worse? Because President Trump, he's reintroduced the maximum pressures again, maximum sanctions and maximum pressures again, and that has been and that's put a basic toll on the economic. But at the same time, you also have incredible mismanagement of the economy within the country. So that means basically inflation. It means there's not enough capital to go away, and just interest groups, literally mafia groups. There are just getting the money and not spending it inside the country, more taking it outside, mostly to Dubai and Singapore. But anyway, that's the main problem, and it started in the economic center of Iran, which means the bazaar of Tehran. That's like the economic motor. So it started there for the first 2 or 3 days. And then the Islamic Republic thought, okay, the bazaar is traditionally very conservative. They're more religious. We shouldn't really mess with them. Let them talk a bit, let them take their cool off a bit, let their steam out, and then they thought it's just going to go away. It didn't happen. So basically, they miscalculated. The Bazaari said, "Okay, we're gonna go more and more and more," and they did. So for 2 weeks, it just started, and then from that on, the previous crown prince, which we can talk about later, about what you said about the past of Iran, that used to be a great ally of the United States, with the father of him, but that's another discussion. So the crown prince, who is living currently in the United States, called for more strikes. So he said you should come out the on Friday, Thursday and Friday of last week. People did come out. They did chant his name, and he said you should come out also Saturday and Sunday, and they did come out. So that's what's the main important thing. So it started with economic motivations, but then people realized, look, these economic problems have political answers, meaning that if these mullahs, if the Islamic Republic of Iran wants to fight the United States, it's going to get sanctions. It's that easy. Don't fight someone that is stronger than you. I mean, it's basic first grade power politics. So if you do that, you're going to get sanctions. So they notice, okay, if we don't want to get sanctioned, we need a government that doesn't want to fight, the hegemon of the world. And so basically, that so they notice that it's not about policy making is really about the basic fundamentals of politics that this regime doesn't really understand. It's just still in that leftist mentality that they want to, fight the United States and the capitalist world, all this, nonsense that has been going on for the past 47 years.
I think that's I mean, that's very comprehensive what you said. What for the viewers that might not know, what is the Tehran Grand Bazaar?
Mm.
It's like the economic hub of the city. I've read just like quickly on Wikipedia. It says it's in central Tehran, and it has corridors that are over 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles in length, specializing in different types of goods. And so tell me how what this is and how it plays into the economy of
Mm.
Iran.
Sure. So first, you have to look at the political geography of Iran. So it's a highly centralized country. So you have everything being focused and in Tehran, which means capital, which means universities, which means food. Everything is really focused and based there. It's very much a system is like France, where you see Paris. Everything is in Paris, and other cities of France are not that as rich as Paris, for example, and important. So that's number one. And number two, imagine Wall Street and all um, other economic hubs being in one place at one in one center, which is called the bazaar. So you have also the financial things, along with the commodity market being focused in the bazaar, and that's why they basically control 80% of the flow of capital and business in the bazaar. So basically, money goes there, commodities go there, and then from Tehran, it just goes everywhere. And everywhere means like all over the country. So there's no like, other centers that commodities go there. They all come to Tehran first from the ports within the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea. And then from Tehran, it gets redistributed again to all the other countries. So whatever happens there, it's going to affect all the country.
Okay, interesting. And I'm reading that food prices have been up 60 to 113%, depending on what the commodity is.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, that inflation is just out of control. So,
Yeah.
there's a saying that Steve Bannon likes to say, who I like to listen to, is that uh, more governments have been turfed out by the bond market than by howitzers. And so, is this a case where, economically speaking, the government cannot sustain the economic needs of the people of the country? And so that's what drove them out in the first place. It's not about so much human rights or women having to wear scarves
Yeah.
or having, Islamic morality police, but essentially that the economic life of the people is becoming unbearable. Is that accurate to say?
Exactly, precise. So, in comparison with the previous one, which was the Women Life Freedom Movement, which was basically on rights and cultural issues, and I can say mostly the middle class, it was a middle class protest. This one is started with economic motivations, and then people realize, okay, even the economic problems are not going to be solved by economic means. They have to be solved by political means, meaning there has to be a fundamental change in how the Islamic Republic is conducting politics, which means they should start engaging with the world. They should stop fighting America and all this anti-imperialist policies that they have. So yeah, it really started with that, and then it started with the mostly lower, the poor parts of the bazaar. So people who were not, they didn't have the capital in their hands. Rather, people who were working for the bazaari person, because the people who have all the capital and the commodities, they actually don't work in the bazaar. They work somewhere else. They have people working for them in the bazaar. So they started the main thing, and so they're mostly low income, lower class people. When they started the protest, the middle class joined again, because again everybody noticed that, okay, this is even if our problems are economics, solution is politics. The solution to this time, the solution, because this has been tried for the past 40 years. It's not like this you just realized right now. Every time they said, okay, we're going to reform, it didn't happen. So at some point, the people are going to say, look, this it's not going to work anymore. We've tried this many times, three, four, five times. You're not doing it, so it's something wrong with your politics, not with your economics.
What
So again,
I want to say, just jump in, like an important statistic that people should have in mind is that unemployment is around 28%. And then also you mentioned the term middle class. What is the ratio of the middle class to speak of in Iran? I know that they've had a socialized economy for a very long time. I think even before the theocracy was implemented, it was a socialized economy. Is that right?
so socialize. Let me. I can say this way: it wasn't socialist, but it
Well, how about
was.
you describe? Tell us what kind of. Well, yeah, in terms that Westerners and Americans understand, is their economy socialist? If not, in what is it?
Okay, right now actually is what's happening right now is actually worse than socialism. It's like communism. So basically, the government controls 100% of the revenue of petrol, and that's what the economy of the whole country is based on. The GDP of Iran is based on oil revenue and selling some rocks and minerals and these kind of things. So which means it's not based on production. They're not producing anything. They're not producing there's no Apple, there's no Ford, there's no Chevrolet. That's what I mean. They're just raw material.
Drones, I think military drones
Yeah.
and and Scud missiles. I think that's the only thing, right?
Yeah, and which they are like basically those are the in the 12 days wars the Israelis proved that they're just not where they're not very high tech stuff. They were able to just obliterate everything within 12 days, and then eventually with President Trump came and just destroyed all of their thing. But anyway, the thing is that the entire economy is based on oil and selling oil. So once you cannot sell oil anymore, it means you don't have money. What you have to do now is you have to print money. When you print money, you get inflation. And at the same time, your economy is not based on anything productive. It's just based on selling raw materials. So you don't have any company, you don't have any factories for people to work in. So what happens? Unemployment goes high. So you have all these problems just coming together. You cannot sell oil. You're printing money. That means you're having inflation. That means your economy is not productive anymore, which means unemployment is high. When unemployment is high, people are unsatisfied. They cannot achieve ends. They cannot get their means, and they're going to get hungry. And at the same time, when they cannot produce anything, it means you cannot produce eggs. You cannot produce meat. You have to import it. But when you're under sanctions, you cannot import anything either. So you see the Islamic Republic is trapped in this quagmire that it has
The cost
just
of
made for
eggs
himself.
is the I don't know if you know what this is, but the cost of eggs I heard is even more in dollars than what Americans pay for
Yeah,
eggs. Is
yeah,
that accurate?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's true. It's like so. Remember when the prices of eggs went high? How much was it? 16, 18, something like that. Cur-
It was like $6 or $8 for like a
Yeah.
dozen.
Currently in Iran is $21
Wow.
for a dozen of eggs, and it's getting more each day. Literally, like that's how inflation. That's how bad inflation is.
Is it and there's so essentially their economy is just a uh, one commodity, oil, and they don't have the other inputs that would make even something like agriculture efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And that's due to sanctions. Like they don't have good tools, good mechanical tools to make it efficient. I mean, even look, the petroleum industry is a petroleum industry from 70 years ago, from the time of the Shah. Which I mean, you can just extract as much oil as you can. You cannot, extract oil 100% of them. They have to, burn the rest of it. And yeah, basically that's everything is, so everything is not new. If it goes back to the 70s and 60s. Agriculture is not working anymore. And for a while they were able to just kick the can down the road. Now
And
they can't do it anymore.
those who are making any money, you say they stay, the money leaves the country. It doesn't circulate back into the economy. They take it to tax havens like Dubai or Singapore,
Exactly.
etc.
Exactly.
So is it, so in terms of who does support their economy, it's China buys most of their oil. Is that correct?
Buys most of the oil with a huge discount. Like at some estimates say 60%. And then the funny thing is that, okay, they cannot just, put it on a ship and give it to China. They have to sell it to multiple buyers from Malaysia, from Dubai, from all these. So basically, what they get at the end of the day is just 10% of the oil, of the price of the oil barrel.
Oh, they're barely even satisfying the cost to get it out of the ground. I mean,
Exactly.
are they running in the red more often than not?
More often, I mean, it depends on the price of the oil. So if the price goes higher than 80, yeah, I mean they're making like 10 cents per 10 cents on the dollar. But if it goes down to 60, they're in the red, that's for sure. And they're just selling it just to like say to to the United States, we're selling it and you can't do anything about it. But that's stupid. You're selling it for at a loss. Why would you want to do that?
And for our audience, from what I understand, the sanctions are in place because of their support for radical Islamist militant groups across the Middle East and their efforts to develop nuclear weapons. If they just stopped all that, would those
Yeah.
sanctions go away?
Exactly. I mean, it's that simple. There's no complicated thing. You just stop, stop doing this nonsense. These guys don't need atomic energy. They have petrol. They don't need to be present in Lebanon and all these places. They don't have any border with Israel. Like, why are you picking a fight with Israel? So yeah, and America's saying, look, you don't need. So the funny thing is that they don't even need to recognize Israel. I mean, that's their problem. They can just stop their fight with them, and everything is gonna be good at the end. So basically, everything that they're doing is just based on pure ideology and stupidity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so uh, that's a lot of economy. I don't want to speak for more than 25 minutes. So what about the uh, the cultural situation and people that you know from growing up in Iran, and uh, like how are your friends reacting to what's like? Are you in touch with people over there? What are they saying? What are they thinking on
Yeah.
a personal level?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now there's complete blackout, so I don't know what's going on right now, but talking with everyday folks before, they just want a normal life. That's basically it. They just want to be. I mean, when I say normal, at this level that you can go to Amazon and pay with something with your Visa or Mastercard. I mean, that's the level of normalcy they want. It's something that you cannot do anymore right now. You cannot go to Amazon and buy something, and you cannot even do any normal thing. So that's what basically they want. I mean, and they want to to just government not telling them what to wear. I mean, it's that simple. So those are all the stuff that they want. And honestly, like having elections, having democracy, that's not really on top of on the list. And in that area, democracy, elections is not a big deal. Look at neighboring countries, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. They all have good. They don't have elections. They have monarchies, but they have good economy. They're not being suppressed by their sovereigns, and they're happy. I mean, they're not saying we want elections, we want democracy, but they say we're happy with our life, and that's what everyday normal Iranians right now want.
Yeah, well, I hear a lot of them asking, they're saying they want the Shah to return.
Sure, sure. I mean, and yeah.
So for our Western audience, which is mostly who I think will be watching this, will you explain to them sort of what they think of why people would want to have, why would they have an expectation that the Iranians would want to have a democracy?
Yeah.
Or why would it be unusual that they would be asking for a monarch?
Yeah, yeah. Look, every time I tell my Western friends, you guys had a good, successful experience with democracy, I understand, but that doesn't mean it has to be universalized. So the culture of that area, democracy means anarchy. And sure, and you've seen it. You've seen, like, you have, empirical data, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan. They've had democracy and it's a mess. They don't have the institutions, they don't have the culture, they don't have the tradition of democracy. So, leave it alone. What you have there are a 2,000-year-old institution called monarchy, and it has worked. You have a successful experience with this institution for 2,000 years, and why don't you use it? It's like that simple. It's just, just look at your evidence, you look at your empirical evidence and act upon it. So that's really the problem that people I see in the West saying, like, okay, we had a good experience with democracy, so you will have it too. And by the way, I should say, like, there's monarchies in the Western countries too. Britain, Sweden, Netherlands, Denmark, they're all monarchies, and they have a good life. And so why I don't know why there's this aversion towards monarchy in Western among Western people, which is mainly the reminiscent of some kind of leftist culture and worldview, that monarchy is automatically connected to dictatorship, and then that's bad, and then blah blah. But it's really not the case.
Okay, I think that's an interesting thing for people to be aware of. So, as the situation stands right now, do you think that the Iranian people, the Persian people, can pull off a regime change, or is this something that will require intervention from, say, the United States or Israel?
That's a great question. So definitely, I don't think the people can do it themselves. I mean, when you look back to the history of revolutions and protests, they've always been successful when there has been a help from outside. But we have to ask ourselves, what type of help? In this situation, I don't think any help from the United States in the form of boots on the ground is helpful. It's not good at all. But I think maybe some kind of symbolic help would be good. Like, the same thing like President Trump did with the nuclear program. He came with the B-2 bombers, obliterated the nuclear program, and he left out. That's exactly the best way. Just, a symbolic surgical strike. And from the Israelis, I think they can provide very good intelligence, very good cyber espionage and sabotage type of things, and not something overt. I would advise against any overt operations. Covert operations would be the best, because it would not give any excuse to the government to tell, say, the protests are Mossad agents or CIA agents, all this nonsense. So any type of covert operation by Israel is best, and any type of symbolic overt operation by the United States will be the best policy to do.
Mm, mm.
And especially, I want to say, since President Trump himself said, if they attack the protesters, I'm going to attack them too. So it's his own words. I mean, had he not said that, okay, I would understand. But when you say it, and if you don't deliver on your threat, that's actually going to reflect bad on you, regardless if you're against intervention or you're not. So what's going to happen if next time something happens in, I don't know, China? China starts attacking, they're going to say, okay, President Trump is not going to deliver on his threat, so let's go do more. And at some point, they will attack some American interests. Maybe not directly, but indirectly, some American interests will be threatened as well.
Interesting. And the last question I want to ask you is, how does this impact the balance of power in the world versus Russia and China? It seems like the entire BRICS scheme is falling apart. It seems like Russia and China are now going to be put on the back foot, and this whole axis to counter the hegemon of America is disintegrating. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that? What do you
Great.
see?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. So two things happen. One, you have Venezuela, Maduro going out. Now Venezuela is back in America's circle, sphere of influence. Venezuela was providing 60% of China's oil. Iran is providing 20% of it. So right now, China doesn't have that 60% anymore. If you take that 20% of Iran from China, basically China has to look for other people to get its oil. And this is really, really good for the United States if it wants to be serious about countering Chinese threats. At the same time, the Chinese have this BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, starting all the way from China, going to Central Asia, and then going to Europe, which they want to control all the supply chains. If they get Iran, which is in the middle of this BRI, they're going to be able to control the eastern and the western part of this BRI, and which something actually President Trump did with the Trump corridor in Armenia and Azerbaijan, and that would be a great policy. It's a long-term investment for America, actually, I believe. Even if it's not, even if it looks right now like a short-term intervention, it will really be a long-term policy to deter China, and at some point to get some American companies in that area. American petrol companies, tech companies. It's a great market for all United States companies.
Well, thank you for talking, and that's a lot of very insightful information for us, Amin. And uh, I'm interested to see what people have to say. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and well, I hope that whatever happens, that there's a minimal upheaval, and that the Iranian people get what they deserve. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for reminding me.
All right, God, thank you.
Bye.